Hi guys, Don here. Welcome to day number 1 of the 30-day practice blueprint. Okay, so I'm so happy that you guys are here. We're going to be going over some things now. It might seem a little simple in the beginning, but I want to remind you when we went to school. I was thinking about this recently. We were in Shoal when we started to do callus care, and we started practicing. We were downtown Chicago back in the day, and we were using candles, and we were learning how to debride calluses with the candle. Like, it would seem too simple, but then it quickly progressed into other types of learning. So I'm going to start with the simple basics, and you might say, hey, I just want to fly through this. This doesn't help me. I would really just learn on mastering the basics and learn on journaling this. So if you're using the journal or the notebook that I recommended, I would put in number 1, and then I would put 3 ways to grow your practice. Okay. You probably already know these 3 ways, but why is this important? Well, it's important because if you take a page on the journal and put these 3 things, number 1, number 2, number 3, and then you outline a ton of ideas, that's going to get you somewhere. Okay. And then what you do is you take all those ideas and you just circle 1 on each page, and you put that in for what you're going to do this following week. Okay. So just doing that, you could just stop right now. But let me tell you the 3 ideas. Okay. The first way is I'll go through them. First, number 1 is to see more patients. Number 2 is to see them more frequently. And number 3 is to have them spend more money. Okay. So I know that sounds really simple. Okay. But it's something that we have to be creative about. So we're going to go through during the next 30 days a lot of different ways to help you see more patients. Okay. You can increase that you could get more patients in the door, right? You can do Facebook ads. You can do a newsletter to the primary cares. You can visit primary cares. You can go to a health fair. You can ask the current patients for referrals. There's a lot of different ways, and we're going to go through those. But what I would say is, if this is what you really want to do, is let's say that your one thing that I talked about in the previous section, which was yesterday. I said, what's the one thing? If your one thing is to grow your practice, which I think that's most of you are listening to this, I would put in, see more patients. Ways to get more new patients in the door. Okay, this is new patients. And then how can you do that? Okay, take a whole page and write down a list of how to do that. We're going to be going through some, but I just want you to think about it. So I'll just kind of think about it with you here now. So what I would write down on my page, I would say, if I want to see new patients, I would go visit primary care doctors, go visit gyms, go visit chiropractors, bring cards. I would bring my books. I would ask people for referrals. So every patient that comes in, I have a way of asking them if they'd send their friends over. I would try to get more online reviews. There's different things like that. Okay, that's the first thing. Okay, now it might sound simple, but we're going to go in more later on. The second thing is to see them more frequently. Okay, so having patients come back more frequently. So for example, if we add something like Shockwave, which I'm a big believer in, they'll see them 3 or 6 times. Those are more frequent appointments. I learned this during a webinar I was watching with Cindy Pezza about less or no PRN visits. Don't just come back PRN. So now every patient, like let's say they come in for nail fungus, something simple that we all do, take a nail sample. I see them in 2 weeks. I review those results with them. Then I'll have them get the blood test or whatever else. I'll see them 2 weeks after for a biopsy. I'll see them 2 weeks after for pretty much everything. So first, new patients that come in, they're pretty much willing to see you back in 2 weeks for anything, and then I'll spread it out afterwards. So seeing them more frequently, also just for other things, having them check up with you in the office is really important. More frequently as well in terms of when you're starting out, like let's say warts every 2 weeks instead of every 3 weeks, or you can see post-op patients every 2 weeks, getting those x-rays versus coming and seeing them like 6 weeks after, type of a thing. So there's a lot of things, ways of getting to people in more frequently, doing more things for them. Okay, so there are certain treatments we do, like let's say, diabetic foot exam or something similar, where you're evaluating them once a year. Your orthotics, you're evaluating them once a year. Okay, so seeing them more frequently. We're going to talk about other things as we go into these next 30 days. And then the last thing would be having them spend more per visit. And this is where you tag on things, where you'll tag on like an x-ray, you're going to tag on an orthotic, you're going to tag on a Onifix or a Cariflex or any other types of treatments to have them increase that amount of the visit. Now you have to have methods of doing that. So I find that the more I can teach them, or the more resources, the more I can explain things, the more that they'll be willing to do in the office so that I can increase that visit amount. I find very simply, Shockwave has really, really helped me, because even though I'm not doing an office visit, I'm seeing them like weekly, and they're paying that fee between 150 if I'm just doing the radial, or if I'm doing the combo, it's 200 per visit. Okay. And then as you do that more, doing like AFOs, doing other types of things like that, where you can use staff, or even having them do like circulatory studies, or doing diabetic shoes or things like that, that you can use your staff instead of doing it. So a few terms I'm going to be using throughout this course. One is called per visit value. It's basically that value that you can see. So when I do these monthly kind of practice evaluation things, where I'll talk about what my per visit value, mine's about 120 per visit. Okay. It can get up to 140, 150. I know some doctors can do that, but I'm just kind of sharing where I'm at. And then you want to bump, so you try to compete with yourself. Like, how can I go up from my value that I'm at? And by measuring it, it can get better. So that's where one of the things I was going to tell you guys about in my journal on the back. This is a newer one, but you can see here it's January and February. So I put in there 2022, Jan, Feb, December, January, February. So I put my numbers. So my November numbers for my personal production was 71,000. EPATs I did 35, orthotics I did 9, per visit value is 122. So I'm always measuring that, because if it's measured, it tends to get better. So I have a little thing in the back of my journal. I just write this down. I know you can get them digitally, but I think it's easier to write this down, and I compete with myself. If I compete with myself, I feel better. If I compete with others, I tend to feel bad. Like my partner, he'll do 40 orthotics when I'm doing 9. So he's much better at orthotics. He's just a master at them. And certainly if you guys have tips on doing orthotics, put them in the comment section. Also, so that's the first thing. The second thing would be lifetime value. This is something we don't learn. This is more of a marketing term that I learned. I learned these ideas. This wasn't my idea, by the way. This was Jay Abraham's idea, and Dan Kennedy. These are two kind of marketing people that you might want to research. I'll put a couple of links if you want to research some of their things. The other thing that they talk about is something called lifetime value. So this is not just what you're seeing each visit, the 120 a visit. It's through the lifespan, how much is that patient worth to you? And that means how much you can invest in order to earn money, or keep them going. So for example, if the lifetime value of a diabetic patient or something like that is in the thousands, you can easily spend $100 to get that patient. So doing more expensive marketing campaigns can be more effective. We're not going to go and do a deep dive into that, but just something. So for example, in our office, primary cares, give you an example, our primary cares, we have a list. I have a list of my primary cares, their names, and I can download this from my medical record, and it tells me how much I've earned based on that primary care. So I have a lot of primary cares, upwards of $30,000 that we get from that primary care, because of the patients that are like recognized as they're the referral provider. And so when I have that, I have this list, and I take this list, and I have like the top 300, and I send each one of them a newsletter. So all these people I'm getting patients from, I send them out a newsletter. Now I know you guys tend to be are the curious ones if you're watching this. So let me just take the opportunity, and I'm going to share my screen right here so you guys can learn, because my whole goal here is to teach you guys things. Okay, that's my whole goal. So I am going to share my Google tab here. Okay, here it is. So what you're going to find is where I keep this, as I keep this under Office. And this is my Profit 911 list. Basically, these are the people that are going to get a mailing once a month. And these are all the doctors. So it has their first name, their last name, their phone number, and their address. And so I have all of these, and they're in this master list you can see here on the bottom. So I put this right in Google Docs or Google Sheets, and these are all the doctors. I send this out once a month to all these doctors in Auburn, in Southbridge, and they get this newsletter once a month. Okay, you might be curious as well, what in the heck are they getting? So I'll show you within my Google Drive. There's certain things that are shared with me, and these are an example of the newsletters that they get. Okay, so let's see here, Profit 911. Okay, here's Al. So Al is the guy that does these. And so here are the December newsletters. So basically they send out different newsletters right here, right? And they send, these are generic ones. And then from these, they make my own newsletter for them. Okay, that's gonna be my newsletter for Central Mass Podiatry. Okay, so here's an example of an older one that I think I've shared before, but basically I put an article here in the front and all the rest is this canned stuff. And then they put reviews on the backside. The main reason we use this is for reviews, and it gets it into every primary care once a month. This is kind of a cool thing. So I can spend, let's say it costs $1 to send this out to each doctor, so $12 a year. If I'm making 30,000, I should be spending 10 times it. I should be spending buying books for them. I should do a lot of other things for them. So that's kind of the idea of the lifetime value of the customer. So we talked about, that's my list. We talked about kind of the newsletter. There's like a lot of other things here that I do for my patients. This is my little, how I use my little tabs within Podiatry. And is there anything else I want to send you? So I have a lot of other things I'm going to be showing you as time goes by, but for now, I think that is good. So I think we've covered a lot today. We've talked about like the lifetime value of the customer. We talked about how to get the per visit value. If you guys have any like ideas, okay, put them down underneath, and I'm kind of making this as we go. So depending on when you're watching this, I'm going to add new things. Also, it's fun to do this with a friend. So I would invite someone, put it down there. I'll send you a special bonus if you do. And I would say just take your journal page and put, how to get more patients, see them more frequently, and have them spend more. Write down different ideas. That's just going to kind of get your brain working for this. Okay, once again, guys, have a great day.